As I look through this, and I mean, it's hard to believe it's been that long, but you've been with Ring of Honor like virtually your entire adult life.
Yeah, man. I actually started training there at the age of 17. So that was June of 2005. I just had a kid in May of 2005. So, a lot of things happening when I turned 17. Just graduated from high school in June and went right off to wrestling school. It's what I always wanted to do. And Ring of Honor was the place that I wanted to be at. So I figured, hey, let me go straight to the school. And, I pretty much grew up in Ring of Honor.
So, I mean, you've been there through a lot. Like, I mean, ownership changes, regime changes and stuff. What has that been like for you personally, witnessing all of that?
It's a little iffy at first because, you always feel like you got to prove yourself all over again. But most times you don't because, you have all this stuff that you've done in the past that you can kind of rely on. But, you still want to, show off a little bit to your new boss. I remember, when it went from Gabe to Adam Pearce, I was like, oh, man, and now I was just finding my groove with Gabe, and then all of a sudden, boom, new book. And I was like, oh, man, But Adam Pearce took very good care of me, and then from Pearce to Delirious, and even during the ownership changes from Carrie Silkin to Sinclair Broadcasting Group, I remember the first time Sinclair was at a show was in May of, I want to say May of 2011. It was Super Card of Honor where A&X wrestled the Briscoes in the Chicago Street Fight. I remember, Joe Koff watching the match, and, we're out there bleeding buckets, dressed like we would be for a street fight. And I was like, oh, man, I don't want this guy to think that, I'm just some hardcore brawler bleeding all over the shows and want to get rid of me right away. So, you never get a second chance to make a first impression, but, it's me. I've been very lucky to have good relationships with all my owners and all my bosses.
Is there anything that maybe you contribute your staying power to? Because, I mean, you're only 30 years old, but you've been there for, like I said, so long, and it's been pretty much just you and the Briscoes during that length of time.
Yeah, it's just about staying hungry and staying humble, Some guys, will come in for like a year or so and be like, oh, why am I getting these marquee matches and, all that sort of stuff. But, it doesn't work that way, There's a spot for everybody, and as long as you know your spot, you'll have a job for life. Sometimes your spot can increase and grow. I've gone up and down the card my whole entire career, but, at least I've had steady work in the job the whole time, whereas some guys, who've gone down the card or whatever, just been like, all right, I'm done with this, I'm out, Whereas, hey, I love wrestling, and I'm going to keep making a living off of professional wrestling, I don't mind being in the opening match. I can't tell you how many times I was in the opening match at Final Battle. I think like 4 or 5 opening matches at Final Battle, but, I'm still on the show, so, who am I to complain,
You mentioned having a child pretty young. Was that intimidating to you getting into really an unsure business like independent pro wrestling at the time, knowing that you had to provide like that?
Well, first off, as a 17-year-old kid, I thought all these guys like CM Punk and Samoa Joe were just at the time making thousands of dollars per indie show. I didn't know. I was like, oh yeah, they got to make $3,000 per show. And then shortly, once I got into wrestling and figured out how everything worked, and took me a long time to even get a paycheck, or any sort of money from wrestling. I was like, oh well, man, I gotta get something going. But there was always as a young kid, I always worked these backup jobs to kind of just help pay the bills and that sort of thing. Especially with a kid at that young, it was very stressful because my son's mother at the time, was not very supportive of wrestling, and her family wasn't either. But it was my lifelong dream, and just because I was having a kid at a young age, that wasn't going to stop me. That wasn't going to put a derail on my dreams. It was just going to mean that I had to work a little harder than everybody else, and I would have to, get a little less sleep than everybody else and make a few extra sacrifices than everybody else. And I was willing to do that. And, I'd work from job to job, get fired here, get fired there, but always make all the shows and stuff because, next to my son, that was my first priority.
So was there ever a period during that time where maybe you were away from Ring of Honor that maybe it was overlooked? Because, I mean, it seems like you've been pretty well consistently with them for like a decade.
The only time that I was sort of away from Ring of Honor for a little bit was after the Scum angle, when Scum got kicked out. There was like a little like six-month period there where I wasn't wrestling on the shows, but Ring of Honor was still paying me for like a backstage role capacity as well. So I was still getting a check. I was still traveling with Ring of Honor. So, like I said, man, they've all been very good to me over the years, always, I can't complain about anything,
You've been a fixture in Ring of Honor's tag team division, and there was a situation a few years ago when while tag team champions, your partner, Kenny King, left the company. What was your reaction to that at the time, and did you keep in touch with him while he was gone?
Yeah, we always talked, all throughout it, because, past wrestling, Kenny King and Rhett Titus are friends, and I can't hate on Kenny King for taking the opportunity that might have been better for Kenny King at the time. I still had 6 months left on my deal, and his was up, so it was like one of those things where, well, hey, you do what you gotta do, and I'll do what I gotta do, and I can't be mad at a guy for trying to make more money, but it definitely sucked because for years the goal was, all right, we gotta get those titles. It was like a crowning moment, where like, coming from, working, taking tickets at the front door and doing ringside security, and there's pretty much any job in Ring of Honor over the years, I've done it, and coming from all of that to finally making it to the top of the card and winning the championship it was like, wow, I finally feel like, I've done something here. And then just less than 2 weeks away, all that just taken away, it's heartbreaking because, you don't know what to do at that point. You're like, well, I've spent all these years with this partner working towards this goal, and now that we got this goal, it's just pulled out right from underneath me, So it's like, well, now what do I do? And it was kind of like back to square one all over again. And, I had a few tag partners after that, and it just wasn't the chemistry that I had with Kenny. I teamed with BJ Whitmer. BJ's a great wrestler. We just didn't, mesh like that. I teamed with Cliff Compton. We didn't really mesh like that either. But now I'm with Little Willie, Big Dog and Little Willie, and I think we got quite the little good chemistry going for ourselves.
Yeah, before I talk about the Dawgs, how far ahead of All-Star Extravaganza 7 did you know that Kenny King would be coming back to Ring of Honor?
It was about a month or so, maybe a little bit less than a month, maybe like 3 weeks. We weren't even supposed to come back at All-Star Extravaganza. We were just supposed to come back on TV, and then a few weeks before, Delirious was like, you know what, screw that whole other idea. We're just going to come out trails blazing, A&X versus the Briscoes. Bam, right off the bat, All-Star Extravaganza. I was like, oh, all right. And then once they made that little, open challenge or whatever, then it was like set in stone and everything was good to go. And it was really cool, man. San Antonio was very receptive of us, because I was like, man, this is like a whole different crop of new fans than what it was before when me and Kenny were teaming, because during the Terry Silkin ownership to the Sinclair broadcast ownership, the fans, it wasn't all the same fans. We lost a lot of old fans, but we gained a lot of new fans, that type of thing. So I was like, man, are they even going to know who the hell we are? But I was very happy that they did know who we are, and they were very receptive to us and us coming back as a team.
So where was the inspiration or motivation for creating the Dawgs? Like, I see maybe a little bit of New Age Outlaws in you all, like in the personalities and stuff, but it's not the same. It's a different kind of vibe. And Will Ferrara, of course, we've seen him as a singles wrestler and stuff, but where did that come from?
Well, the Dawgs is best described as art imitating life. When Will Ferrara's first show at Ring of Honor just so happened to be Grizzly Redwood's last show at Ring of Honor. So as Grizzly Redwood left, Will Ferrara came in, and Grizzly Redwood was always like my road buddy, my sidekick, my little buddy. I could always kind of blah blah blah, make fun of and boss around a little bit. And then Will Ferrara came along, and Grizzly left. I was like, oh, I got a new little guy around here. And I started calling him Little Willie, and it just over the years he would just get angrier and angrier and angrier, and then we started recording these videos where we would play off of these Big Dog and Little Willie and just throw them up on Twitter or throw them up on YouTube just for fun and see what would happen. And all the other boys in the back would always be like, man, you guys are something else, you guys just need to be a tag team or something because you guys got some sort of chemistry going on here. I don't know what it is. It's kind of like an Abbott Costello type thing. I don't even know how to explain it, but it's just art imitating life. And then we got booked on the indie show because this guy Eric Viking, who runs Pro Wrestling Explosion out in Philly, would watch these videos and be like, man, I need to make these guys a tag team. So he put us together on an indie show. We're like, hell yeah, let's do it, And just happened to be at that indie show, and he was like, well, why isn't this in Ring of Honor? This needs to come to Ring of Honor. And, a few months later, the Rebellion was done, and Cheeseburger and Little Willie broke up, and the Dawgs were formed, and now we get to just, a lot of times, in, these groups or whatever, with the Rebellion and the Cabinet, trying to be a politician or trying to be, this revolutionist or something like that. That isn't me. I just, but with the Dawgs, being Big Dog and Little Willie, I don't got to think about portraying the character. I can just be my natural self, and it will come off as entertaining because I got Little Willie to play off of and be the butt of the jokes all the time.
Do you think that's more of shades of ANX? Because that really seemed like that was more comfortable for you as well.
Yeah, ANX definitely. When I was younger, it felt more natural and stuff like that. But as I got a little bit older and I got married and that sort of thing, ANX, I could go out there. Back in the day, I could go out there and do whatever I wanted, not have any worries. But now that I'm married, I could be like, oh man, and I better not do this, or my wife might get mad or something like that. Get hot water when I get home. But so sometimes you kind of grow out of things a little bit, the playeristic party boy type thing was kind of a little bit thing of a past. So maybe the second time, maybe I wasn't feeling as much. Maybe that's why it didn't work out as greatly as we thought it would have. But but the Dawgs, hell, I live that every day of my life, and I love doing it.
You mentioned Grizzly Redwood. I saw that you wrestled him in New Jersey earlier this year. Last year rather. He doesn't wrestle a lot these days. What was that like?
It was really fun getting to blow up Grizzly Redwood. He hadn't really wrestled in a long time, and me and Grizzly Redwood, we go back to the very first day of training. We were both trained by Austin Aries, and we met at training, and we were the only two guys in his first class, and we made it through it all together, and it was a little hard training with each other because we had such different sizes that when we try to practice moves on each other, it didn't always work out, but we got through there somehow, and we stayed friends the whole time. He was in my wedding and all that, and he kind of got a rough deal at Ring of Honor. Him and Charlie Haas got into that little scuffle backstage, and they both got let go. But that's in the past, and he's been taking some bookings recently, popping up here and there. I got him booked on that Jersey show because I wanted to wrestle him again, and I really wanted to blow him up. And and he's taking more bookings. And I think he's going to be popping up a few more places in the very near future. So keep your eyes open for that.
Think there's any possibility we see him do an appearance in ROH again?
Man, I would personally love it. I guess it's one of those things where you never say never, though, right?
Yeah. Well, Rhett, I want to thank you so much for joining me. Of course, let people know where they can follow you on social media as well.
Yes. At Rhett Titus ANX. That's RHETTTITUSANX, and it's Facebook.com/Rhett Titus. The Instagram's the same as the Twitter, and head over to YouTube.com/Rhett Titus. I'm always posting new promos, new crazy videos, new Big Dog Little Willie dog shenanigans. There's always something going up there. I kind of have a weekly thing going on there, plus other videos. So check that out too. Subscribe to that. Like on Facebook. Follow on Twitter and Instagram. That whole good stuff.
Yeah, I saw your Final Battle vlog that you had up, and the look into the new year, or the Big Dog got a look into the new year, if I remember correctly. Like,
yeah,
you got a lot of content there.
Yeah, and I was actually able to monetize it too, so which is always a good thing. So you gotta diversify as much as you can. Do as much, because people don't understand. We got all these things at our fingertips these days. When I was coming up as a wrestler, MySpace had just came out, and recording a promo was like, oh, well, you got to find somebody with a camera. Then they got to upload it to a computer, and they got to edit it. And it would be like a 3-week process. Mm-hmm. Now you can be like, boop, 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 and it's right there. These kids these days, they have no idea how easy they have it.